All right, we're going to finish with the hardcover comic shelf. I'm not going to lie on my stomach to do the bottom shelf, so I hope that you can see all right. If you're watching these, please leave comments on the videos about what you like and what you don't like. First up, 4 volumes of the Fantagraphics collection of the Floyd Gottfredson Mickey Mouse. Um, I have not read any of these all the way through. I love the pie-eyed Mickey Mouse so much, and I love the Donald Duck with the long bill, and I love Clarabelle Cow, and I love Horace Horsecollar, all in concept more than I do in practice. It's occasionally I'll pull this off the shelf and be like, I'm going to read these Mickey Mouse books, and it just never happened. Maybe I'll get my nephew into them someday. I gotta say though, just thinking about doing this video, I had to pull out my Walt Disney Treasures Mickey Mouse DVDs and watch a couple of them before I started, and those were great fun. Next to it is a gorgeous Fantagraphics, almost exact size 1920 collection of panoramic Crazy Cat strips by George Herman. Oh my god, those were awesome. And again, I don't know if I've read the whole thing. I probably have come close to it. They haven't done a lot of really neat books of daily Crazy Cat strips, um, which I have to say, Mickey Mouse is very derivative of Crazy Cat. The art style, at least, the writing is nowhere near as good. Crazy Cat is one of the most brilliant comics ever to exist. Right next to it is Craig Yo's book of other daily Crazy Cat strips, the Tiger Tea saga. Very fun. I've read through that a couple of times. Crockett Johnson's Barnaby, Volume 1. Good comics. It takes place during the war, the Second World War. This is by the guy that did, of course, The Carrot Seed and Harold and the Purple Crayon. I like this comic a lot. I will probably get the second volume if I find it for cheap. It's so of its time. Barnaby is. I wish it had a more timeless feel, like a couple of these next ones I'm going to talk about here on the shelf. But it's very set in the 1940s. And it's funny, it's clever, but it just, I don't know why it doesn't quite carry over. The Best of Foxtrot by Bill Almond. Both volumes, got this at Half Price Books, very happy with it. Um, Always liked that comic. This down here, in case you can't tell, is sort of my things that are appropriate for children shelf. Next to it, I have Terrible Thompson by Gene Deesh. This was a comic from the 50s that was not published in a bunch of papers about a kid who had a treehouse and could travel through time. It's really fun, and I feel like it deserves its place next to these 4 Calvin and Hobbes volumes. The Days Are Just Packed, Homicidal Psycho Jungle Cat, There's Treasure Everywhere, and It's a Magical World. Um, Homicidal Psycho Jungle Cat is in hardcover, which is kind of cool. And the It's a Magical World is the very one that I got for Christmas the year that it came out. Then there are 2 Peter Arno collections, which is that he's a great New Yorker cartoon. Pretty politically incorrect now, again. Not timeless, but I gotta say funnier than Barnaby. A lot of World War II jokes in here. Um, the Tough Coughs as he plows the dough by Dr. Seuss. A bunch of newspaper strips by Seuss. Right next to it, Dr. Seuss Goes to War, which has a bunch of wartime cartoons by Seuss and others in it. Um, it's got some Saul Steinberg stuff in it that's great. That's even a little bit better than the Seuss stuff. Um, is this called The Explainers? Hang on, I'm going to pull this off the shelf and look at it. The Lonely Ones by William Steig. There is a tattoo design in here that I want to get. The Rejected Lovers, also by William Steig. Great fan of William Steig. These are also probably things that were published in the New Yorker. The Curious Sofa, which I have in a softcover Edward Gorey collection, but I like this little hardcover book of it. Amphigory also, and Amphigory again, 2 Edward Gorey collections. I'm a great fan of Edward Gorey. This Lind Ward 2-volume set in the box. which I was so happy to find at Half Price Books years ago. It has God's Man, Madman's Drum, Wild Pilgrimage, Prelude to a Million Years, Song Without Words, and Vertigo. My favorite of these is still God's Man, the first one. Lind Ward also wrote a book that I loved when I was a kid called The Biggest Bear. You cannot read the spine at all on this one. This is... Oh. Sorry, I thought this was the Jules Pfeiffer one. No, this is actually Fairy Tales by Walt Kelly. And I'm sorry this is so blurry on my phone. But this is an awesome, awesome book I found at University Bookstore in January-ish. And my dad was kind enough to pick up for me. A Smithsonian book of comic book comics. I think the first place I ever saw this was at my orthodontist's. And there's a ton of great stuff in there. There's Will Elder, Mad Stuff. There's Harvey Kurtzman, Mad Stuff. There's Batman. There's Superman. There's a great Shazam, Captain Marvel story in there. That was one of the longest reprints that had come out at that time. Love, love, love this book. If the newspaper strips that I have up on the shelf above wasn't so unwieldy, I'd probably love it as much as the comic book comics collection, but unfortunately it is totally unwieldy, and you have to open it up and read it on the floor. This also has Scribbly and the original Red Tornado in it, so lots of good stuff. Blazing Combat from Fantagraphics Books. This was kind of a Vietnam protest comic that was sold in PXs, and because it was anti-war, it was discontinued very quickly. The only downside of this collection is that the books had covers by Frank Frazetta, which only appear in here as end papers and then as kind of thumbnails at the back of the book. McSweeney's comics collection, which is awesome. So much cool stuff in there. One of the coolest things in it is that there are a bunch of Charles Schultz sketches that he did right before he died. Best American Comics 2007, edited by Chris Ware. Best American Comics 2008, edited by Linda Berry, which was a gift from a former roommate. Best American Comics 2009, second copy of that I bought, just because I want to say that it has both Macchi's and Underworld in it. I know it at least has Underworld in it. Best American Comics 2010, edited by Neil Gaiman, and Best American Comics 2014, edited by Scott McCloud, which I got for my mom for Christmas the year before last. The Great Comic Book Heroes by Jules Pfeiffer. Now there are versions of this. Sorry, my rug is in the way. Down here, there are versions of this that do not have reprints of comics in them. And the fun of this is the reprints of the comics. I mean, I love Jules Pfeiffer on his own. He is an accomplished writer. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning writer, I believe. But no, having the Spirit and Flash stuff in this large format, and by Flash I'm talking about the Golden Age Flash, is really awesome. And I got some hardcover Tintins over here. The original version of Cigars of the Pharaohs. I think that the other one that doesn't have any writing on its spine is King Oktar's Scepter. Red Rackham's Treasure, which was the first ever hardcover Tintin book I was ever given as a kid. And Tintin, the Alpha Art, the unfinished. Donald Duck, Lost in the Andes. Donald Duck, Trail of the Unicorn. Donald Duck, the Pixelated Parrot. Donald Duck, A Christmas for Shacktown. Uncle Scrooge, Only a Poor Old Man. Donald Duck, Trick or Treat. And Uncle Scrooge, The Seven Cities of Gold. I think I'm only missing 2 books in this set right now, and that's Christmas on Bear Mountain, Donald Duck, and The Old Castle Secret, Donald Duck. And at some point I will pick them up. I would love it if I could find them on the cheap. And then I have Uncle Scrooge and Donald Duck in, I want to say this one is Treasure Under Glass. Let's take a look. Yes, Treasure Under Glass. Sorry again for poor film quality. I gave the other volume I have of that, which is the second one, which is Return to Plain Awful, to a buddy of mine to get signed by Don Rosa. He didn't end up going to Comic-Con. I went to Comic-Con this year. I did see Don Rosa, but I didn't know he was going to be there, and thus I did not have anything for him to sign. Sock Monkey by Tony Millionaire. Mighty the Ear Might. Let me make sure that's actually the title of that. Mighty Might the Ear Might. Yeah. Good stuff. Cute little book. And then the 2 volumes of Billy Hazelnuts, also by Tony Millionaire. And that's the bottom of that shelf. Thanks for watching.